Welcome to the December recipe segment. My name is Kelly Burgess and I'm the Family Consumer Sciences Extension Agent with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service in Allen County. I am really excited about today's recipe because we're making country ham and broccoli grits. This recipe combines two classic Southern staple foods and a vegetable, so what could be better than that? Today, you'll see me make half of the recipe, but I'll tell you the amounts of ingredients as if it were the full recipe. We have 4 cups of milk, 1 cup of grits, 1 egg, 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, 6 ounces of country ham, a ½ cup of onion, 3/4 of a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, 2 cloves of garlic, a tablespoon of olive oil, and 1 pound of fresh broccoli. So I'll go ahead and get started with the part that might take the longest, which is going to be heating up our milk to make our grits. So I have my pot heating up just a little bit, but it's really important to make sure that it isn't too high because we don't want our milk to singe in that pot. So we want to watch it until it's steaming, but we don't want to let it get to a rolling boil. So I'll just leave that sit over here. And then I'll also get started on our second pan, which is going to be our sauteed vegetable mixture. So I'm going to start with that 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. I have my pan already heated up, but this is a good one to put on about a medium heat level. We'll add our 2 cloves of garlic, our crushed red pepper flakes, our ½ cup of onion. Let's get all the rest of that out of here. And I just used a yellow onion. You could really use whichever type of onion that you prefer. And then I also have our pound of fresh broccoli. So what you're seeing here is ½ pound. And so that gives you a little bit of a clue about how many cups if you're more used to measuring in that way. So we'll go ahead and add this to our skillet. We're going to let this saute for about 5 minutes. Or till it's tender. So I'll go ahead and crank the heat up so that it can get cooking, all the while keeping a watch over on our other pot as well. So I wanted to get those couple of things started before I talked too much, since they take a few minutes to get going. To talk a little bit more about our staple produce item, we used fresh broccoli in our recipe today. And you'll notice that this is a healthy looking head of broccoli. What I did is I cut the florets, or the part that looks like a little mini tree, cut that off the top just with a regular chef's knife. So when we're picking out our broccoli, we want to choose dark green florets that are closely bunched together. So we don't want one that's already splayed out and open, and we don't want one that's more of a yellowy green color. We want to stick to that darker forest green. So this looks like a great head of broccoli. Some of the little ones you might be able to just snap off, but it's easiest, I like to just go around, and you can kind of go through the layers and get all those florets off. So I can already hear our vegetables cooking over here, which is great news. They're going to be doing well. And I'll go ahead and turn up our milk just a little bit. Like I said, we want to wait till it's steaming, but not too hot on that mixture. So I'll also talk a little bit more about country ham. Here in Allen County, we actually do have a producer of country ham. It's Clifty Farms country ham. You might find that in your local grocery store. But country ham is actually only produced in 6 states in the United States. That would be Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia, Missouri, and Georgia. So it is pretty rare. You can tell that all of those states are in the South. So that's why it's kind of a Southern food staple around here. But country ham dates way back to early food preservation when refrigeration wasn't as common. Country hams are salted and cured with salt, sugar, and spices. And traditionally that would happen in the winter months when the outside air is cold enough to keep the ham safe before it can go through that preservation process. So as I mentioned, it is cured with salt. So if you are being conscious of health or maybe some blood pressure concerns, that might kind of set off a little red flag for you. But I actually did learn of a technique to reduce the sodium content in country ham, and that is by soaking it in water before you get started with your cooking process. So that will decrease some of that sodium that is just in the ham from its preservation. So that's a technique that you can do to keep it a little bit on the healthier side. So I have my milk steaming over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my 1 cup of grits. And these are just old-fashioned grits, nothing special. It will take a little bit of time. I have a whisk. I like to use a whisk when I'm making grits. And it kind of requires a steady stirring, if you will, because we're going to wait for them to thicken up. If you were making grits with water, it wouldn't be quite as important to stir it constantly because you wouldn't have to worry about that water singeing in the pan. But since we're using milk to make our casserole extra creamy and good, we do want to use caution and keep our grits stirring. So we'll see how well I can multitask today. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the nutrition for country ham as well. So 1 4-ounce portion of country ham contains 220 calories. Since we are using only 6 ounces in our full recipe today, I love it because we're still getting the flavors and the taste that come along with that country ham, but in a smaller portion that keeps it a little bit more health friendly as well. Another neat fact is that our broccoli, our vegetable of choice today, is very high in potassium. And so potassium and sodium, or salt, from your ham kind of work against each other in your body to cancel each other out. So it's neat that this recipe contains both. So really it is less of a health concern than if you were just eating a big plate of country ham. So I think that's really neat. Broccoli also offers several other nutrition benefits. It's high in vitamin A, vitamin C, folate, iron, all good things that keep you feeling healthy and well throughout the year, no matter what time of year it is. So I'm going to let my grits set for just a moment, give this a little stir. We are doing some serious multitasking today, but this recipe really comes together quickly once you get it started. You can kind of see this broccoli is turning a bright, brilliant green color. And just a note on the crushed red pepper flakes, it is a small amount that goes into the recipe, but if you usually don't like spicier things, you can of course choose to omit those or substitute it with maybe just black pepper instead if you are concerned about the spiciness level. But really it's a small amount and it just kind of brings out that flavor in the broccoli. All right. So I see our grits, they are starting to bubble over here. They are thickening up nicely. They will require a few more minutes. We don't want to let them go too long. So grits are kind of another southern staple food. They're made out of corn. So I guess technically you could count that as another vegetable or starch. You'll see some bubbles start to come up in your grits, and that's when you know that you just want to keep it going steadily. So I'm going to reduce my heat. The instructions say that once your water has boiled or almost boiled, in this case if our milk is steaming, we want to cut that heat back to a lower setting, and that allows our grits to thicken up nicely on their own. I'll make a few more comments about country ham while we're working on it. Country hams can be baked, they can be boiled, or they can be fried. So, of course, different cooking methods we know result in different nutritional contents. So that boiling method is actually going to be, if you're concerned about health, that is going to be the best way to get some of that salt and sugar out of your country ham before you eat it. It will diffuse out into the water of the boiling that you're cooking it in. Baking is also another good option. It reduces some of the salt, not quite as much as boiling, And then of course frying, that method would have the most salt and sugar and fat still in it at the end of the day. So technically today we are going to be baking our country ham along with the rest of our recipe. And my grits have pretty much thickened up nicely. So what I'm going to do is remove these from the heat. Our pan is still hot, so they're going to just sit there and set up nicely for a few more moments. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this burner off as well because our broccoli is hot. It is starting to get soft and tender and ready to go. So now for the fun part where we get to put it all together. I'll also remove that from the heat as well. So the reason I chose this large pot, hopefully you can see the grits in there just a little bit. They are thickened. They are coming along nicely. So next we're going to be adding in our egg, our cheese, our ham, a little salt and pepper, and our broccoli mixture. Something that I wanted to point out that I like to do, when we have our egg, if we put this egg directly into the hot grits, we are going to end up with scrambled eggs instead of something that's going to bind our casserole together. So what you do is just put a little bit of your grits into your egg, and this is called tempering. It's a cooking technique that gradually brings up the temperature of the eggs without making them scramble as soon as you put them in the pot. So just a little tip that you can do there to end up with the best results for your casserole without making scrambled eggs on accident. I'm going to go ahead and take out my whisk. I'm finished with that because the rest of my items I'm going to just stir in with this wooden spoon. Okay, we're going to add in our country ham, and this is cut up into about a 1/2 inch cubed pieces. Add in our cup of cheese. However, we are going to reserve about 2 tablespoons because we want to have a little bit extra to sprinkle over the top. Everybody likes that crunchy cheese that is on top of all of our favorite casseroles. We'll go ahead and add in our salt and pepper. This is just to taste, it's not in the recipe. I just did a little pinch of each. And then finally, we will add in our vegetable mixture. So we're going to put all of the rest of this down in our pot. So like I said, that large pot comes in handy, even though I didn't need quite that big of a pot for just the grits. This reduces the amount of dishes that you'll have to do later, which I know is always a good incentive as well. So you can see it is all mixed together in our pot. And so we just simply have to stir and combine. I should have mentioned at the beginning that my oven is preheated to 375 degrees, and I have already pre-greased my casserole dish. Now, like I said, if you were making the full recipe of this at one time, you would want to use about a 9x13 size pan. That would fill it up well. But today I have a smaller square dish since I'm just doing half the recipe today. So it will be lumpy. You'll still be able to see your broccoli pieces. If you want to disguise your broccoli a little bit more, if maybe some people in your family don't love broccoli, but you want to still have them try and eat the vegetable, you can always cut up the pieces a little bit smaller. I like broccoli, so I just left them whole today. So we will scrape into our casserole dish. And this smells amazing. And it smells even more amazing once that country ham starts to heat up in the oven. So this is really a treat. One other thing I wanted to mention was that this would be a great recipe to do maybe the day after your holiday meal. If you traditionally have ham and you have a little bit left over, this is the perfect way to make sure that you don't waste any of that good ham that you've had for your holiday meal. Have it for breakfast the next day, have it for brunch. I think this recipe would really be perfect at any meal, whether, like I said, you want a hearty breakfast or a lighter lunch. It would be great for either one. So we'll go ahead and spread this out in our pan. Want to try and get our broccoli and our grits all spread evenly throughout. And I like to just kind of smooth it over with my spatula. So this looks delicious. And finally, like I said, the last step, let's go ahead and make sure we get all of this off. Don't want to waste any of that goodness. Okay. Next we'll add our cheese, just sprinkle lightly over the top. And I think this recipe will really be a crowd pleaser because if you think about it, it's kind of like a broccoli cheese soup, two flavors that are commonly combined in another dish. So you can kind of put it that way if you have some people who are a little bit skeptical. So as we always say, by the magic of TV, we have another recipe that has already been prepared. It's baked in the oven for that 30 minutes, and you'll see the cheese start to brown a little bit on top and just bubble up slightly. Then you're ready to take it out of the oven. So if you would like a copy of this recipe, you can email barry.hyatt@nctc.com. You can also find it at plateitup.ca.uky.edu, or you can find us on Facebook at Plate It Up Kentucky Proud. So we wish you a wonderful holiday season and join us next month for our recipe segment.